I want to get her. Yes, I do, Your Honor. I want to get her. You just don't know how I want to get you. You don't know how I want to get you. Ma'am?
I have so many mixed emotions when it comes to today's story. On the one hand, watching that video of that old woman looking to storm at the person who was convicted of killing her husband brings me a level of joy and satisfaction and hope for this country that it just wants me to heap endless amounts of praise on her. But on the other hand, the fact that her husband, who we're going to get into today, was such a good guy, was such a pillar of the community, and he was taken in such an undeserving, unceremonious way is ridiculous. It's heartbreaking, and I understand the reaction because it's in proportion to how good of a man we're dealing with and how horrible this woman was that victimized not just him, but the whole family. So we got to talk about it. We got to break this tale down. We got to go over it. But before we get into that, this video is sponsored, so I will chuck it over to the sponsor, but we'll bring it back over here and we'll talk about it on the other side. A new survey shows that about half of all Americans have weight loss as their New Year's resolution. Well, considering you're not alone, maybe you should consider doing something that has worked for thousands of people nationwide. And of course, I'm talking about this amazing keto powder over at Keto with Justice. There's a reason why the keto diet has become so popular nationwide. It's because it does work for a lot of people. In fact, my own mother is on the keto diet, and this powder can help prolong a state of ketosis, thus making it so that you don't have to be so rigid in your dietary plans. And luckily for you, for your New Year's resolution, this is available for 51% off at ketowithjustice.com. That's ketowithjustice.com. Let me say it again, ketowithjustice.com. So the story that we're going to talk about today actually takes place in Detroit, Michigan. It takes place in an O'Reilly's in Detroit, Michigan that was unfortunately robbed back in the day when this took place. And for those of you who are unaware, this is a particularly old story, around 5 years old at this point, but it's important that we go over it and we go over the reactions to it, because just because it happened a few years ago doesn't mean it can't tell us something about our society to this day. For those of you who are unaware, O'Reilly's and AutoZone are actually two of the businesses that are doing quite well in competing with Amazon, because one of the things that they've done in terms of their business model is make sure that they have informed people working at the store so they can not only sell you the parts for your car, but they can actually aid you in what you need to get and help you sometimes even assemble those parts or attach those parts to your vehicle in the parking lot of their business. It's actually a really nice experience. I had somebody at one of these places actually come out and help me install a light bulb into my car when my light bulb actually went out, and I really appreciate the customer service. And it seems, despite the trend of all shopping seeming to move online, the American people really do appreciate the customer service at these places, which brings us to James Haller, who was also a well-informed person working as a manager at this O'Reilly's. You see, Haller has a background in cars. He was actually somebody who worked and was a retired plant worker for General Motors in Detroit. Now, on top of his work in the assembly line in a Detroit GM factory, he also was a reserve police officer. Now, I'm not exactly sure how this works in Detroit as compared to in a city like I live in, like New York, but the reserve officers are actually volunteers where I'm from, so maybe he was acting as a volunteer, or maybe Detroit has some other structure that I'm not aware of. I couldn't really find an answer to this question before shooting this video, but I just want you to understand that this is somebody who not only worked a good job, was married, had a family, was in his family's lives, and after his retirement wanted to still be out there helping people with his knowledge of vehicles, and that's why he was at O'Reilly's. But this was also somebody who was a veteran. He served honorably for the United States in Vietnam, so this is just your A-plus classic guy. And he's talked about and revered by people who worked at the store with him, by customers who remember him, by people who worked on the assembly line with him, and of course by his family, his loved ones. Well, unfortunately, on a fateful evening at around 5:30 p.m., two women decided to enter the store, and they decided that they needed to get something. They decided that they needed to rob the place, so of course they drew a gun and pointed it at two employees demanding money for the register. Now, Haller, who was not in that area at the time, ended up coming out, seeing these two women, committing this robbery, pointing guns at his fellow coworkers, so he yells out, "Hey," really quickly to draw attention away from them, and he is unfortunately shot one time in the head as these two women are fleeing, even though it didn't really even look like he was trying to stop them from committing the robbery, and 2 hours later, he passed away at the hospital at age 69. Vietnam veteran, retired assembly line worker, somebody who was working an extra job that maybe he didn't even really need the income from because he wanted to be in the community, gunned down over the petty cash that was in O'Reilly's cash drawer. Now, our perpetrators, our villains, our disgusting humans for today's video are as follows. 28-year-old Ebony Monet McEwen and Shawanta Cherie Anderson, who is 23. Now, here are their photos because we not only name, but we also shame criminals on this channel, and I don't want to hear anything about how these two women are just Aladdin stealing bread for their family. They killed a breadwinner of a family, a pillar of the community, all because they got startled or something like that, because in reality, they were almost done, completed with the robbery, and they shot this man on their way out the door. Again, for the cash that was in the register at 5:30 in the afternoon at an O'Reilly's. This is not much money. Most people don't pay with cash at these places, and that's what they took a man's life over. Now, of course, they pled guilty. They did acknowledge the fact that they committed the crime, but if you think that they were remorseful at all, let me just tell you, one of them definitely wasn't, and that, of course, was our shooter.
People make mistakes, and your mistakes don't define who you are as a person.
That's right. This woman, after being convicted of killing a good man who did not deserve the fate that he was dealt by her, unnecessarily, by the way, during the course of a robbery, decided that she was only going to say that people make mistakes and your mistakes don't define you, as if to portray herself as the victim, as if to say you guys are castigating me in a wrong way, even though she's responding with a complete and utter lack of emotion after she committed this crime and after the emotional outburst by the wife in the courtroom. Because make no mistake about it, this was right after her emotional outburst, the wife, and we're going to play that in full for you so you can understand the weight that this woman brought to the courtroom in this moment.
Instructed by her lawyer to look forward, Shawanta Anderson stood in silence as the widow of James Haller, Patricia Haller, spoke to the court.
You don't know what you did, young lady. Do you understand me? You don't know what you did. And I wish I could get to you to hang you in here today. To hang you, because that's what you need.
I think that is what the kids would call based. This woman came up in the courtroom after she pled guilty, got sentenced to around 30 years to life with the possibility of parole, which, by the way, was probably a condition of the guilty plea. She walks right up to the microphone and she says, "Listen, I wish I could get to you right now because jail is too good for you. You took my husband. You deserve to be hanged for your crime." Love the energy, love the spirit. I love everything about this woman, and everything I learn about this family, I'm absolutely on board with. We see time and time again in certain cases like this when people commit horrific crimes against people's loved ones, some people go out of their way to forgive the criminal, and I understand that that is a part of the healing for some people. But here's the thing, I already told my fiance, and I will say this publicly to all of you and my friends that are listening, if I ever get my ticket punched, if you guys ever get the chance to confront the criminal that did that to me, absolutely no way would I want you to forgive that person. I want you to be bringing the energy that this woman brought right here, because what we're seeing on display is love for a good man who is a good father and a great member of the community. And all of that love is churning into the emotion that she's displaying, and I don't want to take a single bit of it away from her.
You don't know what you did, young lady. Do you understand me? You don't know what you did. And I wish I could get to you to hang you in here today. To hang you, because that's what you need. Taking an innocent life. An innocent life.
Because this is how a civilized society should feel about criminals that rip away good members from their community. And again, these are the kind of people that I want to build a country with. These are the kind of people that, whatever disagreements we may have on other political issues, share our fundamental values, a value for life, a disdain for the criminal, and something that we should all take with us. And one of the reasons why this story didn't get national coverage, even though it's a good black person that was being killed, a father who was actually married long-term in his son's life and all of that, is because it's an instance of black black on black crime. Can you imagine if this guy got the same level of acclaim as a Jacob Blake, a serial sexual assaulter, ended up getting? What a better country we would live in if these were the kind of people we elevated in certain communities rather than the worst elements of the community. I mean, I could see in a few years, especially when this woman ends up passing away, Kim Kardashian trying to free her, saying, oh, it was some outrage in the community, and this woman was just going through some tough times. Even though she's totally emotionless, even though she's totally cold and as calculating as she was the day that she murdered James Haller, Kim Kardashian would definitely get on board for this woman. And by the way, it is not just the wife, although we are going to play more and more clips of the wife throughout the course of this video. It's also other members of the community and the man's son himself who showed up to court. So stay tuned for that. We're definitely going to get into that, but I just want you guys to see, once again, the woman try to charge this woman who killed her husband, so we can all jump on board with that level of energy.
Anderson remained emotionless.
I want to get her. Yes, I do, Your Honor. I want to get her. You just don't know how I want to get you. You don't know how I want to get you.
Patricia returned to her seat, letting out one final cry before leaving the courtroom.
There's something that just gets you about an old woman with her heart broken, and really, that cry out at the end is so gut-wrenching. I just needed you guys to hear it because you had to experience what went down and how much she loved her husband by her response to this conviction. And luckily, again, this woman was convicted. And by the way, I know you guys noticed that there was a cut in the video when she was trying to charge this woman in the courtroom. I'm going to go to a different local news report so you can see that. But I just want you to know that this is what happened right before this woman, this murderer, decided to say, you know, you shouldn't judge me based on the worst thing that I did.
People make mistakes, and your mistakes don't define who you are as a person.
That's not reflective of me as a person. That flippant comment in response to such emotional weight being displayed in the courtroom is just the contrast that people need to recognize is between the good people in our society, the people that we want to share a nation with, the people that still share our fundamental values, and these criminals that everybody in our society is bending over backwards to protect. This woman is not a good person. Her murder, her casual murder of this good man, is representative of her as a person, and she deserves to be sent away for a very long time. Now, I'm going to cut back to the other local news segment so you can see that charge, because, again, you all are rooting for this old woman, whether you want to admit it or not, and these cops are trying to hold her back, and I love the fact that it takes this many officers to hold her back at 73 years old, coming at this killer.
I want to get her. Yes, I do, Your Honor. I want to get her. You just don't know how I want to get you. You don't know how I want to get you.
Now, it's not just her. The son also stepped up in this moment and said that he is going to make it his business to show up to every parole hearing, to every single instance where this woman is going to try to get out early and make sure they serve out the length of their sentence. And again, I absolutely love the energy on display right here.
Haller's son, Christopher, letting the court know that he has a goal in all of this.
And if at all in my power, I'm going to make sure you spend every single year of that sentence to the maximum behind bars.
Powerful stuff from a powerful family. I do want to note that I was talking about forgiveness and how some people do forgive the perpetrators behind this. There was actually a daughter of James Haller who spoke outside of the courtroom and extended forgiveness, which just goes to show you that some Christians in this country are a lot better people than I am. And again, it does not change my position. If my ticket ever gets punched, I want every member of my family with that old lady energy right there in the courtroom, because that's the disdain that criminals deserve. Also, just really quickly, I gotta give a shout out to my good friend Devin Tracy. I know I've been really excited about hitting 200k. Devin should be right here with me at 200k. He was unceremoniously banned off of YouTube, but he still makes great content over at censored.tv. Make sure you use promo code AIU for censored.tv, by the way. He's also available on Patreon and Subscribestar. Content is as good as ever, and he actually made a video that inspired this video that brought this case to my attention, and it's the reason why I'm doing doing a deep dive. So if you want to do something for me for 200K, while I appreciate all the support I've gotten, I'd really appreciate it, and I think you'd really benefit from actually signing up and tuning into Devin's content. I think you guys will really like it, and again, he should be at 200K right here with me, maybe a little after me, because I probably would have passed you, Devin, not saying anything, I'm just saying, and that's just the kind of caliber person that he is, because he finds the stories like this, and then I get inspired in part to make videos based on that. He's also one of the only people who fight against the innocence fraud. But overall, what I really want to harp on in terms of this video and in terms of this case is that we should highlight the good people in the Black community in this country. We should elevate them and we should talk about them because they do exist. In fact, the criminal element is a much smaller portion than the good people in this country. And here you have a guy who's been married for a really long time. He's in his children's lives. He's in his community's life. He held down a good job. He served our country in Vietnam. He was a volunteer, according to my interpretation of what reserve officer for the Detroit PD means, police officer, and he was somebody who cared so much and was so interested in sharing his knowledge with the next generation that he took a job at O'Reilly's just so he could help people out when it comes to talking about their car parts. This is the kind of person that we should be supporting. This is the kind of person that we should be elevating. This is the kind of person that people should be outraged over when their life is taken in such an unjustified way. And yet, time and time again, criminals get elevated over this person. This is treated like a local news story meant to be forgotten a week after it's out of the news, when all too often, people like the perpetrator in this case, the vicious, violent, emotionless criminal, when something bad happens to them, that becomes an international incident. It's not right. We should not be supporting it. We should fight back against it by not only destroying their false narratives, but telling the truth about good people who do the right thing and are unfortunately victimized by the criminals that the left wing keeps trying to protect. But hey, those are just my thoughts. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social media, support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about James Haller out of Detroit, Michigan, and his wonderful wife. Till next time.